Hi, welcome to OWTV. It's me, Renandra, back again with Casores. Casores, big congratulations on qualifying for Stockholm. I'm sure you and the team are feeling great. How are you feeling?
It feels so good to qualify after the one match and not have to go through, the ringer in order to qualify and have to wait another week in order to play to qualify. It's a big weight lifted off our shoulders, and already being qualified for Stockholm, I think was, the bare minimum of what we wanted, but we're aiming for a lot more in this playoffs.
Yeah, I think for our very first interview at OWTV, you said that anything besides first would be kind of a failure. So obviously, stage is not completely over with playoffs, and seeding is a thing of contention. But yeah, have you the team celebrated since beating Nightmare?
Oh yeah, of course we celebrated qualifying. I think everybody was really happy, not having to go for a dogfight, and also like we did better in this match against them than we did in the regular season match. So I think we always celebrate improvement here. So I think not going to a map 5 dogfight felt pretty good, but in the regular season we also did pretty good in the map 5 dogfights. So it's good. I think we didn't sell them to like the utmost because it still felt like we didn't play to like our highest level in that match. We left a lot of opportunities on the table. I felt like Nightmare had a really weak showing. Actually, I think in the first round they came out swinging and they made like a lot of individual plays. But as the series went on, we felt a lot of pressure from Seeker, especially as Hanzo on Kingjo, and we didn't play too well into that. But I think yeah, they were kind of afraid was our feeling, but we also didn't play that good. So it just came down to individual plays, and I think when it comes down to individual plays, our team always is really good.
Yeah, I think I totally agree with that. They looked like they pittered out, and you actually touch on a bit of what we're going to be asking in some of the questions later regarding Nightmare and how you feel about them as a team. But I mean, overall, like having to win 3-0 is still a strong statement. And I kind of wanted to ask, now that you have that kind of bit of reprieve and the weight lifted off your shoulders, have you approached practice or preparation differently this week? Like, have scrims been going well? Have you started ramping up actually instead? Kind of what's the process looking like?
I think always before the playoffs and in the playoffs, we ramp it up. So we've been doing 3 blocks a day, more review, more individual coaching. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's different from last week. Of course, we have a different opponent, so we're approaching, practice differently in that way. But I'm sure you'll touch on that before I get ahead of your questions again. But no, I'd say like we did a good job practicing in the last 2 weeks. We're hitting some very strong points, so it's just more of the same, like review into triple block into we're scrimming EU and NA. The only rough thing for which I guess us and Geekay have is that there's only off tank teams left to practice against, and we're both main tank teams. So we don't have like the heads up practice that we had against like a Nightmare. Where against Nightmare we would always scrim SSG because they're on the other side of the bracket. So as a little tidbit, both us and GK, we probably will have limited practice against each other's comps. So that will be a struggle for both of us. But the playing ground is even.
Yeah, I was talking to Zeb actually yesterday from Sakura and interviewing him, and they expressed kind of the same struggle. They're like, what do we do? Do we ask Nightmare to come back after getting knocked out and play against us for practice? Like we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with only 4 teams left and having different styles kind of colliding on the opposite sides of the bracket, which is very interesting. But I did want to get into the Nightmare game because that was kind of I guess people generally anticipated this to be one of the closer ones, if any were going to be close at all. However, we saw a lot of upsets and you weren't one of them. Were you feeling confident going into that match against them today, or I guess last weekend?
Yeah, we were definitely confident. I think our play has been the best it's been this stage, and we're really hitting our stride as a team in the right moment. So we're really happy with our comps, our play style, the meta for us. It all kind of clicks out. I feel like our DPS players are very comfortable right now. They love playing the hit scan plus tracer and the Genji combos. So I think it all kind of fits well for us, and everything we kind of worked on this year, I think it's colliding into this playoffs. So whether we win or lose, we just want to like put up the best performance ever that we have, and we want to show like, oh, the first stage we didn't even qualify for China, and then the second stage we went to a map 7 dogfight against Geekay in the finals. So we want to show like this playoffs we can get over that hurdle.
I mean, the advancements are certainly put on display for everyone to see. I think people are generally all kind of expecting you to walk out of here relatively unscathed, looking very, very polished. But when talking to some of Team Liquid's players in the previous week, there was very much consensus that you guys have really started to find your style now a lot through this later part of the year. We see your team generally play a huge range of comps that have different win conditions and different approaches. I want to ask you today then, how would you describe Team Liquid's style now? Like, what is something that crosses over across all these different comps that, and what are the key elements kind of behind your successes?
I think our biggest style right now is we have really, really good shooters, and we tend to abuse that by playing the map really widely and by trying to put the enemy team in positions where wherever they walk, they feel like they're under pressure. So we're trying to pressure the opponent at all times and see where they crack, and then take advantage of those cracks and push, or be able to disengage when they like feel forced to do something. Right, so we're trying to lead a different tempo than the other teams right now, and that's kind of where we're headed with our style. I think we're trying to abuse the fact that we have the best Freya in the region, the best Tracer in the region. So we're looking really good with that. I think to go back to your question about Nightmare, I really feel for them because they put in the same or harder practice than everybody else, and you just have 2 matches and then your season's over. It like ends like that. It's the same for Virtus Pro and EU. It's rough to go out in one weekend when you had a lot more left on the table that you wanted to show, and probably would have been able to show if you had a bit more time, or you were able to have like a break between your 2 matches. But when you go from a loss against us into a game against Sakura, and they come out so strong, like they played really well, it's very tough. So I feel for them that their season ended so quickly after such a strong season across the board.
Yeah, I think you guys definitely took some wind out their sails, and then having to go into like that next match with Sakura kind of right away, that couldn't have been easy. So, I mean, at least they were warm, but yeah, like I mean, Nightmare always bounces back. They always do, despite getting poached every time and all the rebuilds. Like I'm sure we'll see more of them, next season. But let's get into this game, kind of like where credit's due. They did push you at least a little bit on Illios. They did start with a map up, and we see that mirror all the way through, really, with Ball, Freya, Tracer, Ana, and Kiri. But yeah, they, like you mentioned this before, kind of leading into your strengths. You guys have shooters on the team, and these comps feel extremely duel heavy and individually focused in these matchups. So you talked about it briefly before, how that macro, you're kind of trying to play wide and kind of making them feel under pressure at all times. Is that what you're doing just on this comp with this style? Or are you kind of doing this across like every comp you're playing?
Oh, we're definitely doing it across every comp. Like we try to do this on every map. I think no matter the comp we play, I think Overwatch doesn't change that much. And as long as every player knows their role and does role, kind of try to transcend maps, we can make that happen, right? But definitely on Illios, where Lucio's banned, it kind of creates a more dual focused gameplay. And Lucio wasn't banned, but they put their 2 flex roster in. So that kind of signaled to us like, oh, we're really confident at that. I mean, we don't have, Vega's a main support, but he is not restricted by anything, which is one of our strengths. So that's one of the styles we play too. And we ended up going into a full mirror, and they kind of took the wind out of our sails on map 1. I think, especially Seeker, like played really aggressively. and created a lot of opportunity for them. And then first fight right away, like Infected got booped off the map, and we're just like, okay, go next fight, and we the next fight. And I think they really crushed us on that first round. Like they pressured us really strong, and then we made some adjustments. I remember RuPaul called like, oh, let's push the line more. Let's push against their Freya more, and then once their Freya's pushed out, then we'll go to points. So we were kind of skipping the steps, and then once we started getting our stride, we kept the point once. Our play style started coming out more and more, and we were able to force them into uncomfortable situations. So I always feel like in match, whichever team can not only make the least mistakes, but also force the enemy team into the most uncomfortable positions where they will make mistakes, will win the match. So we really got to doing that as the Illios went on, but definitely in the first round they shoved us into a locker, and then we had to make our way out of the locker and put them inside of one.
Yeah, they definitely left looking rather rattled going into King's Row. I think they banned Winston here and forced Diva into Ram a lot, which was pretty unexpected for me personally. I was surprised to see that matchup happen. I think when people see Painkiller in, they expect to see Zarya often or Ram, but he showed kind of neither. Did you guys anticipate that matchup going into King's Row?
Oh, we kind of did because we had so much practice against SSG. I'm not sure. I feel like the European teams and the other NA teams, they're on something. They think that Diva can beat the Ramatra, but I actually really feel like that's a one-sided matchup. I feel like a good Ramatra team should always beat the Diva, unless it's like a hard high ground map, right? Like we're not talking about Illios or Gibraltar, but King's Row is a pretty low ground map. There's a lot of corners. Ram can hold his corners. I think on a map like that, I think Ram should win, and we were really able to hold our corners, like you saw, and we were able to shoot, and that kind of won us that map. I think if you want to make a Diva comp work, you have to play really ballsy, where your Diva has to like create splits and make flanks happen, and get on the enemy Freya somehow. But it always felt like we were able to just match our tank to their tank, and then I think the Ramatra just wins. So it could definitely be made work, but on a narrow map like King's Row, I think it's a little tougher. And also Freya was banned, so we got to play the Hanzo, and I think that makes the matchup even more one-sided.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think we don't want to see Diva and Ram kissing. Nightmare probably wanted to avoid that at all costs. I am kind of curious, though, on your opinions. I don't know if you watched the other OWTV interviews. It'd be great if you did. But Christopher did kind of mention he thinks that like Ram is kind of figured out. He's like their team had kind of generally kind of solved it. They're like, yeah, this guy's actually pretty squishy when people actually end up shooting at him, especially from behind his block, and it's not all that strong, generally speaking. There's ways to make it work, but there's also ways around it. How much have you guys like kind of learned these past few weeks via scrims? How's meta developed just as teams have kind of innovated and discovered things like one at a time, or is there really like a team kind of behind the scenes driving the evolution of the meta?
Oh, no, I feel like every team is playing their own style right now. Like we can't play what SSG plays. They can't play what we play. I will say, he says like in scrims, we figured out the Ram, but they haven't figured out our Ram yet.
Okay. So he's like, well, maybe Team Liquid has a different play style, but we'll come to see if they can get that solved in the next coming games. But yeah, on King's Row, it was like smooth sailing once your team had capped, and but yeah, again, like Nightmare kind of put up a decent show. They nearly get like a full hold on first. They definitely drove that time way up, but yeah, you guys managed to crack them open and kind of get in there and like clean up the game from there. What really changed to kind of make that breach kind of happen?
That first point, we were actually going through the steps quite well, and then we would like get to a certain point, and then somebody would peek Seeker just get a pick. Like I don't know what that was. I mean, we didn't play it as cleanly, like right. Like we got our supports especially like over peaked, or we were all looking at one place, and then our blind side kind of caught us off guard. But I'd say like we were taking the steps and clearing the right spaces, and then once we got our Hanzo in the right spot, which Hanzo requires a little bit of setup, we got picked, and then we had to reset again and do the same steps over again. So what ended up pushing it over the line? Hello, infected. He's got groceries for cooking. Yeah, but once we finally got over the line, what got us there? I think Secret just didn't get a pick, and we had ults, so that's all we needed. It was dicey, but I think that's the way these Hanzo matchups sometimes go, and we need to be cleaner at clearing all the sides and then peeking the Hanzo wall at the same time with our tank peeking. We had some bad peak timings, and we had bad, in CSGO where somebody's holding every angle and there can't be any cracks in there and they're making rotations. I feel like we kind of messed that up where sometimes we left an angle unmarked and we got caught off by that angle. So we need better awareness and calling out of enemy positions and playing around that better. But also sometimes the Hanzo just hits every shot. That's kind of what happened on the first attack. It was very impressive. After that, I was like, man, maybe we shouldn't have been for him. Maybe we shouldn't have taken the Hanzo matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I think that character does make a magic, happen kind of out of thin air sometimes, for sure. But you guys did end up, getting through and making Kings Row, your second stop at a 3-0 series. Going into Rialto, this is, I think, when the series looked like Nightmare had really kind of lost it from there. Anna is banned out from Nightmare. Your team locks out Zarya from them, and then given actually that Ana was taken away, I thought maybe we could see some of that Wu Yang that you guys did to play a ton during the regular season, but didn't show actually at all this series. I think you guys even banned it out on Illios right at the very start. So do you just feel like that hero is not in your wheelhouse anymore, or is he like just too weak to kind of or vulnerable to play on the current patch?
No, not at all. I think Wu Yang is still very good. I think we're still very comfortable playing Wu Yang too, but we don't want to take a Wu Yang mirror into a 2 flex lineup, right? They're putting 2 flex support in, so we should ban one of those flex support and make them play a worse comp. Because I feel like us banning that Wu Yang out makes us say like, oh, Wu Yang is still really strong, I think Wu Yang Ana, Kiri Wu Yang especially, it's a very good support lineup because both those supports are so hard to catch. And it's definitely something we could still pull out. But we felt like in that series, we were just winning on the Lucio matchups. And we're really good at pushing and pulling. So why not just keep doing what we won on Kings Row? So why not play what we just won on Kings Row with? And then banning on Ana just played into that, right? I feel like Kiri Wu Yang, Ana Wu Yang, it's still very strong. I still think you'll see a bunch of it. I think a lot of EU teams are playing it too. They love that comp. I'm seeing, several teams pull that out over there. So it's a good comp that we could still pull out as well. But I think we were winning on something, and then you just keep playing that.
Yeah, kind of like present a problem and see if they can solve it.
Figure it out. Yeah,
exactly. Okay, cool. Actually, in that case, I kind of wanted to talk more about your prep, especially on Rialto, because something I found interesting was we see more Ram versus Diva, but on your attack, you actually start playing Ball. You guys take first with it, and then actually pretty much insta swap from there. Curious about the Ball pick. What was that an adaptation, or was that kind of like a prepared strategy for you guys to roll out an attack on Rialto with him in mind?
With bans on every attack, we have a couple comps that we can pull out. So we could have just ran it back on the Ram, and we could have done other stuff. But I think they were on Widowmaker, if I remember correctly. It's been a week. But I think they were on Widowmaker, and I think Ball is just so good into Widowmaker. So as soon as we see the Widowmaker, we're just like, okay, let's pull out the Ball and let's play the game of our Ball chases their Widowmaker and makes his life hell, and then we'll see if Secret can survive or not. And like you saw, I think they all ended up in our room, and we were just shooting fish in a barrel is the saying.
Yeah.
So and once that happened, we were like, okay, they need to come out of this room, and our Ball would just wait, and we'll just all shoot them. And I think that's what Ball is really good at, making the enemy team clump up, and their comp doesn't want to clump up. So
yeah, it definitely corralled them a little bit.
It was just a counter comp, but the nice thing about hybrid attacks and escort attacks is you can always counter comp, and we're one of the most flexible teams, so we always figure out how to counter the enemy team, and it's one of our things that we've put the most practice in is it's getting good attacks. And I think you could see this from a lot of our attacks where we're starting on the counter comp and making the enemy team swap to a comp they're not comfortable on, and then either swapping again or staying if they didn't make the right swaps.
Yeah, leveraging those deep pockets, I think, is something that Team Liquid has done exceptionally all year. I think even talking to some former players and previous interviews, they mentioned that, yeah, when we scrim Team Liquid, they if they lose on a comp, they'll switch right away to the counter. And we're just kind of annoyed in scrims because they're like, we want to practice a specific matchup, but they just won't allow us. They're always kind of shifting us into the back foot. So I'm hearing a little bit of analysis there. That yeah, you guys are miserable to practice against, but for good reason. It's obviously working. So let's see if this practice pans out in your upcoming game against Geekay, which the last time you guys played, it was a close 5-map win in the regular season. I want to ask you then, should we expect another close match? Are they that good that you're kind of guaranteed to have a bit of a fight, or are you feeling more confident this time around?
I actually think this might be not because they're not good, but because we have a similar style. It might be a more close, or it might be a one-sided series for either, right? Because when you're playing an off-tank team, we'll pick the Illios because Illios is not a good off-tank map, and then they'll pick Kingdra, which is one of the best off-tank maps, and then we should lose that, and then we pick another dive map, and you kind of have this. I think Unter, our co-streamer, calls it ping pong theory. So I'll go with that. You have ping pong theory. But since us and Geekay have similar strengths, if one of those two teams is just better at that strength, they could just take it in one go. But again, we're always against them, and it's always really close, and they're a fantastic team. So we hope to not make it close, but it probably will be, as it always is.
I think that's an interesting kind of notion that when your team pigeonholes themselves into one style really deeply, kind of build tall as opposed to wide, that you're kind of hoping that you just end up being the better team going band for band in some of these matchups. I think Liquid is unique in the situation where you guys are really good at the one particular styles you do play, but you can kind of extrapolate outward and play some other things as well. Not a lot of teams have that depth, or if they do have that depth, they might have to play multiple players in similar roles. NTMR, for example, has both PK and Rhino to kind of do that when they need to. Would you say you're describe your team as a jack of all trades, master of none, or would you say you guys have mastered more than one specific kind of style?
I think we're definitely masters at some comps. I think we're the best Lucio Kiri team out of all the teams. I think we have a distinct style, but when the enemy team pigeonholes themselves, we can definitely find counters that we might not be 100% comfortable on, but the matchup is so favorable that it kind of plays itself. You could kind of tell that with the Sigma pick we did in the map 5 against GK, where we're not an off-tank team, we're not a Sigma team. I think Boston is very competent on Sigma, but the matchup is so favorable that we're able to bring it out in those moments. So we're never pigeonholing ourselves into we can only play this one comp, and maybe that hurts in some way where we're not just practicing one comp over and over again. But I feel like in a world of Overwatch where every team is playing something different, you can't just play one comp, because eventually you're going to run into a team that just counters your style. You saw this even before Hero Bands at Stockholm last year, where everybody was running the Mauga, and some teams pigeonholed themselves so hard into Mauga that they ran up against, what was it, Tree's team, NRG, with the Queen, Quinlan on the Queen and the Sombra, and they were able to dismantle that comp against quite a few teams that just kept running the Mauga against them, and they kind of got surprised. So we never want to be the team that like put themselves in a hole where we're like, oh, that matchup, they figure out the counter, but we're just going to try and play our comp so good that we can't lose, you know?
Yeah.
Now, if something's not working, it's not working. And we'll try a different avenue. And we have enough practice on enough different comps where we can beat them. So I feel like, master of none it's kind of negative, but we're also not going to die on a hill that it's not good for us. So we're the most adaptive team, and maybe sometimes that leads us to not have the ego on one certain comp, because ego or confidence it does make like the difference sometimes, right?
Right.
But there's comps that we have where we think we're the best and we'll mirror any team on it, and there's comps that we have where okay, we can just counter this, and why would we take, the matchup? I saw a Hawk interview on your channel, so I do watch some of them, not all of them.
Thank you.
Where he said like, oh, why do none of these like tanks mirror me on Zarya, or none of these tanks can mirror me on Zarya and Diva, but why would we mirror him on Zarya and Diva when we can counter it?
Right. I do totally agree with that. I think it's interesting also. Overwatch throughout history has kind of generally had a problem where there are just some teams that are like, okay, if we're expected to win it all, we have to be the best. And if we're the best at a certain comp and everyone's playing the same thing, then, we'll take the honorable way to the top and just kind of show that we're number one on Mauga comp or GOATs or whatever it is at the time. As a coach, I kind of wanted to pick your brain on this because I do think about this sometimes myself. Do you think there is an answer to every problem? I think like some people are of the idea that there are some patches where something is just the most powerful and it's unbeatable and there's no way around it. We just have to play this thing. Do you think that's just kind of naive thinking or lazy thinking from players or coaches in a certain region? Like, do you think there's always an answer out there, or is such a case that sometimes adaptability is not the way to go? You just kind of have to play this thing.
Oh, there's definitely times where something's so broken that you have to play it. Right, like I feel like right now, if you're not playing Tracer, I think that is a really hard problem to work around. Right, it's a very, very tough problem to work around. So you either need to play Tracer or you need to be like the best sim team. Those are like your two options right now. So there's this workarounds to everything, but sometimes something is so broken that you're putting yourself in a big hole by not playing it. That then is another problem to solve. So yes, there's always like a good answer. I'd say Mauga at Stockholm was really broken, and even that was broken. Especially with bans, working your way around things has gotten new tools too.
True.
But sometimes if you can't play something, it will be a big disadvantage for you. And sometimes Blizzard brings out our new characters just so broken that you have to play it, right? But 9 times out of 10, you can work your way around, especially now with bans. But you will put yourself at a disadvantage, right? I'm not saying like, oh, you can't play the OP thing. You're not putting yourself at a disadvantage. It's just sometimes it's better to put yourself at a disadvantage than forcing yourself to play it.
Right. Kind of play to your strengths and know like what you're capable of, type of thing. I mean, 9 out of 10 times, like those are decent odds still, for a team to be adaptable and put that time in. But okay, great. Like going into, I guess, looking at the bracket. We got Space Station and Sakura in the lowers. I wanted to kind of pick your brain here and say, do you have a prediction for how this game will go? Do you think you'll know who will join you in Stockholm?
So my heart, it wants Sakura to win. I love the underdog story. Natsuki's Dutch. He used to be on Team Netherlands with me, so we're good friends. But realistically, I think there's a very slim chance of Sakura winning, and I think SSG is really solid right now. Like Hawk and Sugar Free are playing lights out, so I think it would take a lot for them to win. But I did see some magic in the Nightmare Sakura match. I know we all watched that Kings Row, and I see these guys speed out of chokes, just running at the enemy team. And I'm like, if you want to make an upset, this is what you have to do. You can't wait and go into a shooting match against these like really talented players. You have to like make plays happen, and you have to not be afraid to lose. So I think they did look really solid in the Nightmare match, and they really showed like, there was really like a confidence and a pushing gap and a not being afraid gap. So I think if SSG like really comes in and they don't play their game, then they could be caught off guard by that. but I think the player quality there is really high. So it'll be an uphill battle.
You don't think Zeb has what it takes to give Hawk what he wants, like a real challenge from a new generation tank player?
I do think Zeb is very good at Zarya and Orisa. So I think in that sense, Zeb is really good. But I think, Hawk is just so steady, and if Hawk has to take the Zarya mirror, he will, and he will be really solid on it. So it's a tough matchup. But I guess we kind of said that about Nightmare and them too, how they kind of play a similar style, and they were able to take Nightmare out of their comfort zone. And I think their bans were really solid in that match too. I think Nightmare wasn't willing to take the Zarya matchup, but I think Hawk will probably be happy to take the Zarya matchup.
Probably. Okay, cool. I mean, even looking beyond that, then we're peeking far into the future now. But are there any teams from other regions that you're excited to play? On the official broadcast, Tree mentioned Crazy Raccoons because you would get that run back from EWC. But are you feeling the same way, or is there anybody else that you're like excited to potentially play against?
Yeah, Crazy Raccoons would be sick. Falcons would be sick. I think we'd like a run back against T1 because that match against them at EWC, we got so stomped out of the water. I think we want to show that we can do a lot better than that. And we were kind of really taken on the back foot by their play style. And next time we'll do better against them. But to be honest, I'm not even looking at Stockholm yet and who to play. I thought Virtus Pro would be there, but poor Smash fell early. So sometimes it's just like that, Like I think I watched like the Uncoachable with Gamba, where he said like, oh, one of the reasons why I retired is just you can have one bad event, you just don't make the LAN, and that's really sad. So I feel for Virtus Pro and Nightmare in a sense. But looking at international opponents, I think T1 would be sick to go against. I think Donghak is the best tank and maybe even the best player in the world right now.
Wow. That's high praise.
Yeah. I think when somebody can play all these dive tanks to such a high level, it's like he's not just scraping by with low skill tanks. He's like actively avoiding the low skill tanks and going into these like really hard matchups and somehow coming out on top. So it's impressive. It's only something he can do, And when there's something that only one player can do, that's like it doesn't happen very often.
Right. Yeah, that's the mark of I think like a real competitor for sure. Like he's making a name for himself out there. So I guess that takes like that means I'm taking it to say you want T1 to proceed and make it all the way to Stockholm to get that run back.
Yeah, I think it'd be hard to see Crazy Raccoon. I mean, Falcons in the ditch right now, but you can't count Falcons out. They've been in this like situation many times, and I think they're in the clutch. So Crazy Raccoon, Falcons, and then I think T1 will make it up. They're all solid.
All right, cool. So those are your predicted three. We'll see if you're correct. I do think that region is susceptible to a little less volatility than I guess some of the other regions are. Like it's upset city over here in NA, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, Way did beat Falcons before, so
they did.
If they can handle things under high stakes, then they might be able to do it again. It's a good meta for them, I think.
Yeah, Falcons might fall out. Who knows?
They're really, really good at Freya.
I mean, I would never bet against Falcons personally, but stranger things have happened.
Yeah.
But okay, and I guess before the message to the fans and everyone watching, I want to ask then, what are your expectations for Liquid going into Stockholm? Would Team Liquid be happy with anything else besides first?
Into Stockholm, I think we just going on and keep reiterating on like our previous results, and we want to do something we're proud of. So first of all, I want us to just play good, and then the result will be the result. But to give you a placing, which we're asking for here, we got 5th to 8th at EWC. I'd like to get 3rd, 4th, or up.
All right, so steady, like kind of one step forward at a time, trying to be semifinalists first, and then if we follow that trend, like we have been, does that mean next year they're aiming for first overall?
Yeah. I mean, I think we have the youngest team in the world, or like the youngest like LAN team that's making LAN. I think that it's not a stretch to say that. I definitely think so. Maybe there's some like team that's average age is slightly lower, but we have like so many 18 now 19-year-olds were set for the future. So I think even if we don't get first in Stockholm, then we'll keep building on what we have. And these guys are so young and they learn so quickly that we will keep going up. So.
All right, so I mean, yeah, you heard it here first. Invest in the potential of NA. I think our future bodes well, especially we're not looking at many retirees. I think you look at regions like China, for example, and like Weibo, and those players have been around for a while. I think they have a rotating door problem to handle very soon, but I think NA's future is in good hands with Liquid here, kind of at the helm currently.
Yeah, I think the same for EU. One of the reasons why I went to NA instead of EU is because I had a core of players there, and I think the potential in NA is really high. There's some really skilled players, so I think NA is like the most young talent out of any region. Korea, you never really see any new players, and I feel like the top players in EU, they're also like getting older. I would say necessarily that getting older makes you like worse at games, but there's other things going on in your life, as you age, and then the less time you could spend on Overwatch, the worse you'll get overall,
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like an age thing, it's more of a priority and life thing. And it's not the owl days anymore where you get paid enough to play 24/7. It's people have their own lives, and as you age, that your priority shift.
Yeah. I think it is very interesting too. Like a lot of NA's top talent is all in collegiate. They're kind of that prime age where there's something to do that's moving them forward in life, but they can also still focus on this passion and this opportunity they have. Once that kind of door, closes and you're kind of out there in the quote like real world, you have to start figuring things out for yourself. I think that's when the pressure is really on to kind of like make this like your thing or kind of move on. That clock is always ticking. So, I mean, we hope to see NA maybe leave with the title. Maybe Liquid takes us there before that ever happens for somebody. But yeah, I think for all the fans watching, Casores, like, do you have any words for all those cheering Team Liquid on as you guys march into? First of all, you had to end playoffs, but then into Stockholm.
Yeah, no, we appreciate everybody like cheering for us, rooting for us. I know there's a lot of Liquid fans at EWC too, so we hope to see a lot of Liquid fans at Stockholm now that we've qualified. But for us right now, what we're focused on is NA playoffs and finishing, the regular season out really strong. And we hope that everybody out there will cheer for us and give the guys some encouraging words, and we appreciate it.
And not to end on, I guess, a dour note, but I do want to kind of lead a little bit of the clickbait here. Do you have any words for Geekay, your opponents coming up for this weekend?
I think Geekay has always beat us by cheese. So let's see if they can find one more cheese to beat us with.
That's what it takes. A little bit of a gimmick. You don't think they could take you head to head?
Well, they could at last stage. So
there we
I guess we won the regular season match with cheese. So I guess we're the ones cheesing now. But we'll see. We'll see in the battle of two cheeses, because both our like teams have a strong like coaching style where we're pretty adaptable, and we tend to play the comps that we might not have necessarily like practiced all the time, but we think has a good matchup against the other team. It's kind of mind games going on there. So I think we'll see what they'll bring out and if it's good enough to beat us, because sometimes they figure it out and sometimes they try something, it doesn't work, and then they swap again. But so far they have the track record against us. All right. We'll look to turn that around. I
love it. A little bit of a potential coach gap then if things don't turn out the way they want you to. I'm sure you love going on social media after just seeing all the insanity on Reddit and things from games like this. But Casores, I want to say super big thanks for your time and doing this interview with us. Obviously, we're at the mercy of the players and the staff always taking the time out to do these things, and like especially right now with playoffs and big stakes and all the practice you have to do, I'm sure it can't be easy. So sending you and lots of energy and love from the OWTV team. To everyone that's watching today, please also send your love back to Casores and Team Liquid. Socials are here if you want to follow, if you want to kind of keep up with them and cheer them on for their big game. And then while you're there, maybe drop a follow for me, maybe drop one for OWTV if you enjoyed this interview. I've been Renanthra, that's been Casores, and we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.